Hello everyone, welcome to the part 2 of our flat bottom brewer test. In the first video, we tasted side by side 4 different flat bottom brewer, the December, the Kalira, the Torch, and the April, with our African bourbon wash coffee from Burundi. And we eliminated the December. And slowly, I want to kind of find the only one that we will be using at Memli Coffee Lab for our brewing QC. So on this second part, we are going to brew with the Kalira Wave, the Torch, and the April side by side. And we are going to use our new El Faro Estate wash coffee, a slightly more traditional cup of coffee with more caramel, cinnamony, some grapes and pear notes. And we are going to take it into those 3 different brewers. And here we'll go a little bit finer on the grind size as per our Brew with Memli recommendation. So let me get the water. As usual, we're gonna preheat our brewers. And on the last video, we also did a triangulation to really show that there's actually a difference that we can pick out. So we're not doing that just to do it, right? There's an actual difference in the extraction of those 3 coffees. And for all the details and all the datas, I invite you to check out our Patreon page. The data is free. You can really have access to it to look at the TDS and my tasting notes. It's handwritten, so apologies if there's any weirdly shaped letters. All right, so same thing. We're gonna use 12 grams of coffee. As I explained, this is our washed Colombian coffee, and with 200 milliliter of water at 92 degrees. All right, so we have 12 grams everywhere. Just level it up. And interesting to see the result with this coffee. So the reason why for our second part we are using another wash coffee is because about 60% of our offerings is our washed coffees. So I really want to make sure that any kind of brewer that we choose first highlight better our washed processed coffee. And then we will do another part with more naturals and aerobics, all those things. But here, to me, the most important is that if it works well with washed coffee, there's no reason why it won't work with other processes. And I do a 40-second bloom for all those coffees. All right. And after this flight, I will pick the kind of top 2 that I will be working on for another part, which will focus on the our natural processed coffee and anaerobics, or like more innovative fermentation. All right, and we do all of this. Then the last pour. Between the pour, basically, I wait until the water passes through about halfway, and when I can see the coffee bed through the water, then I pour my next pour. So I don't wait until it's completely dry. There we go. 200. Perfect. And here for this coffee, if you have checked our Brew with Memli video, I suggest a slightly finer grind size in order to avoid any under extraction, any sourness. And we're almost done on the Kalira. So we are done here at 2 minutes and 38. Here 2:30, so faster on the torch. And here it's dripping, so 2:38, 2:30, and 2:30 as well on the April. So here we have one that is slightly slower than the other ones. And here I'm going to give those a smell. And I have my little scoring aspects. Okay. On the coffee bed, you can clearly see a slightly cleaner bed or waves for the torch and the April. The Kalita is still clean, but you still have some grounds in the middle. So let's smell those coffees. Really, this is like the really kind of classic, the way we approach this coffee. It's a very sweet, caramelly, little bit of fruitiness. It's like a medium high intensity of flavors, of our aroma, sorry, not flavors. The second one, a little bit softer here. It's not as intense as the Kalita. Yeah, a bit more balanced. A little more medium here, with still some caramel, some cinnamon, but a little bit more fruity on the Torch Brewer. And on our April Brewer, yeah, very similar to the Torch. Actually, more fruity and less intense, definitely, than the Torch and than the Kalita one. So a little bit more gentle on the April Brewer. All right, let's check now the sweetness level. So where are my cups? And you'll find the results, all these sheets that I'm filling live on Patreon, as well as a TDS and an extraction yield for those 3 coffees. Here I will just give my first impression for all those 3 coffees. Nice sweetness, really nice. Not too sweet. It's really like a medium sweetness here. Quite zesty acidity. The acidity is quite a little bit high, and really low bitterness. But that's mostly due to the roast. Let's see on our Torch. Less acidic, really more balance. Less bitterness as well. And I don't want to say more sweetness, but slightly more sweetness, really slightly. And then April. Oh, here you have the and no bitterness at all. Acidity is kind of in the middle, and sweetness between those two is really tight. I put it in the same level. We cannot differentiate the sweetness. Let's check the texture. Texture. Oh, quite milky, really heavy on the Kalita. syrupy on the torch, or syrupy plus, as I like to call it. And on the April, heavier than this one. So almost like milky minus on the texture of the April Brewer. So far, we really have like a little bit more intense on the Kalita, like less balance, and more balance, but in different ways for the torch and the April Brewer. Let's check the aftertaste. A bit dry on the Kalita. Quite smooth, clean, but not too long. It's a medium length on the torch. Clean, smooth. A really similar length, honestly, maybe a little bit more, but I'll put it in the same category in terms of the aftertaste. Now flavors, what flavors we get. I like to assess flavors when it cools down a little bit, so you can really have like the full spectrum. But here there's a huge difference between those two and that one. That one is really like spiky. Those ones are more kind of rounded. Flavors, yeah, quite medium high. Caramel, cinnamon, and a bit fruity, but not too much clarity of the fruits. On the torch, more intensity on the flavors now, but now you start having some grapes, still caramel, more cinnamon. Very pleasant, more balanced. On the third, those two are really difficult to differentiate. I'll put it in almost the same here. This is quite tough between those two. I mean, they ended up at the same time, but they have different geometry and style. So I'm sure different TDS, which we will check later on. Can we taste more of the grapes as it cools down for the torch? This one went more caramelly, cinnamony, and grapes. So it's almost like this one is a slightly fruitier. And as it cools down, the acidity of the second one. And the third one, the second one, but increase a little bit. That's a really interesting tasting, but we can really see like a more spiky, more pronounced, like unidirectional, one dimension aspect of kind of the chocolatey and cinnamon. With some, as it cools down, actually start having some fruitiness, but much more balance on the torch and the April Brewer. I'm going now to check those TDS, and we'll see. I'll publish this on our Patreon page this afternoon. So see you on the third part, where we will dive into natural processes.